Welcome to the Shootin The Que podcast presented by Heath Riles BBQ with tips, tricks, and an inside look at some of the top pitmasters in the game. Now here's your host, Heath Riles.
All right, we're back for another episode of Shootin The Que, and today we're with my lovely wife, Candace, and of course, the BBQ Princess, Miss Leslie Scott.
Thank you for having me here.
I'm so glad I finally got you on. I know we're kind of not in our studio today, and we're over at Royal Oak's offices for a Royal Oak event, so we're kind of podcasting on the road, but you know, we go back a long, long way,
Really
Leslie.
long way. When did you get your start? What was the date of your first contest?
I want to say it was about 95.
Where was
96,
it? Do you remember?
Ashland, Mississippi.
Ashland.
The town I was from. I don't know if y'all ever cooked that back in the day when it was Memphis and May sanctioned.
I don't think we did. I would remember, I think.
And that was kind of before the MBN, of course, you know. And then
right.
I cooked KCBS for about 10 years before I got divorced and moved to the big
Right.
town of Olive Branch. And that's kind of when MBN kind of started off in 2007. So that's kind of when my career kind of took off on the Memphis side.
Yeah. But you had been doing it. It was your career before barbecue took off, right? I mean, like, I know you had other stuff, but you were a professional at what you did from the very first day. And so
I don't know now about that.
I mean,
professional drinker, maybe.
I was a professional drinker at the time. I had a
From
really
what I've
good-
heard.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
it
with
was
me
fun
being
back in the day.
It was, and with me being in the beer business back then when I was cooking, you know, I wasn't at first, but then I got into the beer business, and I was in the beverage business 13 years, and I worked for Budweiser, then Miller Coors, so helping with some of those events and setting up stages and things like that, and then getting to cook, and that come with kind of some free beers sometimes
Yeah,
and things
sometimes.
like that. And it just it was a really good learning experience for me, I guess. But I finally, you know, after meeting Candace, I got serious about it and stopped drinking and really got serious
Got
about it. And
focused,
it's turned
right.
into a full-time job, as we all know.
Right. I love it. I love the direction that you've taken where you started to here. It's
Well,
amazing.
hopefully we're not done yet.
No, just getting started.
So
man.
kind of tell everybody who you are and how you got into barbecue for the people that don't know
Don't
you.
already know. My dad was Gary Roark, and my grandfather was Ubons Roark. And so in the 80s, my dad started selling his barbecue sauce, his Ubons sauce. And he would drive through the Delta and hit, you know, Star Rica and all these little tiny stores that carried Ubons sauce. And somebody directed him to Oktoberfest in Cleveland, Mississippi. And so in '89, he cooked his first contest in Cleveland. And he took just his regular pull-behind grill. He cooked steaks for the backyard turn-in, or for the anything but turn-in, and found out that steaks are not barbecue. So it took him that long to figure out, okay, so they're doing other stuff. He met Boyd Atkinson. I know you know Boyd.
I know Boyd.
Atkinson, Lawyer Atkinson. And Boyd just kind of talked him through, like, here's what competition barbecue looks like. So in 1990, I was, I think, 16 or 17, and that was really when we started cooking. That was when we won our first Grand Championship. We won our first invitation to Memphis. This was back when Memphis in May was invitational. You had to win to, you know, get in there. And it just sparked something in our whole family. 91 was our first Memphis in May, and I'd say that was my first. That was where I bit the hook, was 91. So we opened our restaurant. My dad lost his job at Mississippi Chemical. He had been there for 31 years, and it was kind of like, well, he was 54. It's like, what do I do? You know, do I go get another regular job, or do I take a chance on what I've been doing? And so he opened the restaurant in 2004. And that little place has gotten us a lot of recognition from all over the world. And, you know, we used any chance that we got to get out there and put our name out there. And the result of it has just been incredible for somebody with just a little barbecue stand on the side of the road in Jerry Clower Boulevard.
Well, it's not just a little barbecue stand for the people that, I mean, you're being very modest about your dad, but Gary was a legend.
Very much
I mean, by far. I mean, and not just a legend when it comes to barbecue. He was an ambassador for barbecue. He was not worried about lighting the grill when he first got there. When Gary got there, he wanted to know what you was up to, what you was doing, and let's get a drink.
Yes, every time.
And it was going to be a really good Bloody Mary or a Ubons
special
for the people that
right.
don't know. And that's a little bit of Jim Beam and pineapple juice and Sprite,
That's
right?
That's it.
And I can tell you, I've been fortunate enough to I shared many of those homemade Bloody Marys
Yep.
with your dad and you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I still talk about it.
I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that he was one of the most important contributors to the culture of what we do, because of exactly what you said. He would have rather sat down and told you a story or heard a story than anything. And barbecue takes time. You're not fussing after your meat hits the grill. You got to go chill out. It's going to take time. And that was the part that he really, really cultivated. He wanted to make sure that everybody that smelled like smoke within the vicinity of him felt like they were family. And he did it.
Well, he definitely made you feel like family, because if you needed it and if he didn't have it, he would try to locate it for you and get it for you. And that was the one thing that, I don't know, I could sit here and tell little stories, because Gary was a storyteller.
He was.
I mean, and it was fascinating. And I guess you could say I'm in sense of a storyteller, or like holding a conversation with people and talking like he did. But the old stories, I just love sitting around older gentlemen and listening to the old days and the old ways and what they done, and because we couldn't get away with half the stuff that they done nowadays.
Look, I pull in now to a competition and I'm so embarrassed because I don't know what's going on. Things have evolved so incredibly that I'm not prepared to do it, and so I'm turning in my 1998 rib.
Hey, that 98 rib's still good now.
Delicious, man.
Don't lie.
Well, I want to bring up a point about him making you feel like family. It went outside of those contests, too, because when we went to that contest, after the contest in Yazoo City, he always opened his home for the big party after.
He
fried chicken
and spaghetti and salad.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
it was, he had that great porch, and we had some friends with the band, and that was our favorite part of that Fire and Feast in Yazoo City, was that time, because we wanted to, that whole entire contest was the contest I would have wanted to go to, and it was. Do you remember Newton, Mississippi? Of course,
I
That was my
love
favorite
that
one.
contest.
I still say that was always
That
my favorite.
potluck. That potluck dinner.
Like when I was pregnant with Bird, that potluck, one lady made a bread pudding, and I promise I was like holding it and like, you can't have this, In fact, I got the recipe from her, and that's the bread pudding recipe I've used on Chopped, on the James Beard House at the restaurant. I mean,
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, I learned a lot down there in that little town. But we wanted to take the elements of those great contests and bring them into what we were doing. And the great contests that we used to go to, the people open their lives to you. There was one down in Centerville, Mississippi. I don't know if you remember that one.
I never got to cook that one.
Man, they didn't have any hotels within 25 miles. And so the people in the community divvied up the barbecue teams, and we stayed in their houses.
Oh, wow.
They gave us keys to their houses, and we stayed in their houses. I mean, what more community building can you do? I mean, it was, and so that to me is such a big part of, I can't always, I always say I'm bringing my front porch, because I want to create that environment that my dad created. And that is strictly a combination of environments that we've grabbed over the last 35 years that we've been doing this.
Well, y'all used to cook the Big Apple Block Party.
We did.
And, I never made the Big Apple Block Party. I always got invited by somebody to come attend, and that was back when I didn't have a pot to pee in and a window to throw it out of, and working and all that kind of mess like we were, and so we never went, unfortunately. But just seeing the pictures, I remember seeing pictures of Gary sitting on a New York park bench drinking a Bloody Mary, and his gallon jug below down on the ground there, and people gathered all around, and he was telling a story. And you could see the lines backed up as far as you could see where everybody else was working, but Gary was telling a story over here.
He was telling a story.
Yeah, y'all were doing work, but Gary was over here talking.
Yeah, me and Craig worked real hard to make sure that could happen. As we saw him aging and losing his stamina, we made sure that we had everything else taken care of so that he could do that, because like you said, he was an ambassador for what we do. And if people interacted with him and thought, oh, this is what barbecue is like, that was just better for all of us, so watching him get to do that was just one of the great joys of my life. When we first did it, we had our smoker we called Big Mama. It was a ceramic refrigerator from probably the 60s that my daddy found who knows where. And it had two doors, and the bottom door you open up, and he had a hot water heater. He cut the bottom off, and that was his firebox. And it had these poles sticking up out of it, and that was what he'd pull it out with, So he'd pull it out and build his fire, put it back in there, and close it up, walk away, not have to do anything for, we could leave at midnight and the fire would still be going at 5 a.m. Same temp.
And that's what turned him on to a backwoods, I'm assuming?
That was how he ended up with a backwoods. He and Mike were friends, and actually, this is crazy because I still have it. In 86, my daddy had a Dairy Queen in Yazoo City, and he bought the first prototype of a backwoods smoker, and it's completely different, but also not. It was just first generation. This is something Mike's like, hey, take this and, let's see how it goes. And he put it in the back of that Dairy Queen. And one day, the Dairy Queen corporate guy shows up and says, I had to come figure out why this Dairy Queen was selling so many barbecue sandwiches, because y'all are not buying the canned barbecue that we sell. So he got in some pretty deep trouble.
Really?
Because he was running his barbecue.
A bootleg barbecue out of a Dairy Queen.
Right.
That's pretty funny.
And that sounds like him, right? But, so we started with backwoods from the very beginning, but he didn't have that on a trailer because he had it,
in
using
the restaurant.
it at the restaurant. So.
Wow. Wow. What's one of the most valuable lessons you learned from him in barbecue and in running a restaurant?
As far as barbecue, I really think that, things are always going to change with recipes and cooking methods and all that kind of stuff. But if you start with good products, if you start with good flavors, then you're going to end up with good stuff. If your meat's good, it doesn't, you don't have to do somebody else's perfect. You can actually play with your own stuff and find what you like. We kind of stopped advising people about competition barbecue a long time ago, just because it's not something we do, but he's who taught me how to cook a rib. He's who encouraged me to alter our Ubons sauce and make it my own, and kind of change it into something that I felt like was a little bit more modern with our cooking. So I've teased him and said that he was the first barbecue feminist, but he had me in front of people at 18. He had me sitting at the judges table. And when I was 19, I won Possum Town Pig Fest in Columbus, Mississippi. It was the Mississippi State Championship. It qualified us for Memphis in May. And I was 19 years old. I was, and at that point there weren't women actually cooking, it wasn't really kind of a regular thing. And so I think maybe all that to say the most important thing he gave me was the confidence to assume that I can walk into any room with anybody and do what I do, and it's stand up.
Well, you can. You just got to believe in yourself.
Yeah, you just have to. You have to. It took me a while to get there, but that was what he taught me. As far as running a restaurant, I don't even know. That was a crazy thing that we did. It was, I quit culinary school to start helping with the restaurant. And it would have been so much cheaper for me to learn about restaurants in college.
Staying in culinary school. Wow. What is a memory from your early barbecue days that stands out as a turning point for you in the barbecue business? Was it that moment in Columbus that he kind of turned the reins over to you and let you do your own thing?
That was enormous. That was what told me, hey, you belong here, and it's okay for you to, I would skip college classes and go meet him. I wouldn't come home to Yazoo City an hour and a half away, but I'd drive to Columbus or Tupelo or Natchez or wherever and meet him and cook. And so I definitely know that was a turning point for me. But I really think, Heath, that in 2005, standing on the trailer at the Big Apple Block Party and looking at all of those people and knowing, Daddy came up and I was pulling pork and weeping. It was me and my daddy and my mama and my uncle and Doc, and that was it. And we're pulling pork for, thousands of people. And they're standing there, and I got tears running down my face. And Daddy said, "Go sit down." And I was like, "No, look at them. They want the barbecue. We must keep pulling." And at that point, I realized, whoa. We're not just cooking barbecue at my stand on the side of the road. This is something that is global. This is something that is way bigger than what we thought we were doing. And at that point I thought, okay, this is where I jump in and do this full time. It's sustainable. So yeah, that was a big
turning point.
Big point, yeah.
Well, not only have you carried on that legacy, now is Jacob your son. He's in culinary school as well, and is he out of culinary school?
No, thank goodness. I'm making him do the whole thing.
But he's been on some shows himself,
he
right?
Has, yeah. When he was 12, he did the Kids BBQ Championship. It was a Food Network show, and oh my goodness, that was harder than anything I've ever done, was watching him do it and not be able to scoop him up when somebody said his beans were carcinogenic. I'm like, I'm going to throw knuckle sandwiches at him. But yeah, he did Chopped. He did all that stuff when he was, a preteen. And now he's at the John Foss Culinary Institute at Nichols State in Thibodaux, Louisiana. And actually today he's doing a food truck class, which is funny because he did a food truck class with me in July through going back to school. He and I figured out how to set one up. So he was like, dang, if I'd known that we'd figure this out. But yeah, he's ready. He loves what we do. And, I just think that I was influenced by my daddy. Who he is embodies my daddy. He takes it very seriously. He's not staying up all night with a hog to drink beer. He's staying up to check that temp. He's very focused on what we do, and it's exciting to me because you're always a little bit afraid that does it die with us, and now we know it's not. Of course it's not going to, but now we know for sure there's a whole generation of these kids that are coming into it now that we've raised ourselves, and so it's so exciting. The Steak Princess, there's just so many out there that are really bringing that next generation, so it's exciting.
It is.
For me.
It's wild. So with Jacob being involved in it now, you've kind of transitioned out of the restaurant and just using it for basically a catering commissary
Right.
now, and transitioned into y'all's food trailer for catering and more.
Right. And I'm actually this summer. Well, we bought our food truck in February, and let's see. In early July, a customer came in and said, "Why aren't you working on one of those construction sites? We've got a huge one over in Canton." I said, "Well, I just haven't been invited. I don't know how to do that." And before he left, I had a gig. And so
You had to gotta have a trailer.
Okay, right. And so, we went up to Chicago for the Windy City Smokeout. We got home on Tuesday, and we were there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And, I looked up, and these folks want me there daily, and I have kind of a captive audience. There's 1,200 people on site who only have 30 minutes for lunch and are not allowed to eat on the back 40, so they have to come to where I am. And so I kind of looked up, and it's September, and I haven't had my dining room open. And it was a hard decision to close that dining room. That was my dad's.
That was his court.
It was.
That's where your dad held court.
It was his clubhouse. It was, it absolutely was.
I remember stopping for a 30-minute lunch that turned into 3.5 hours. Okay, and
well,
I need to go.
Yeah. It was 30 minutes.
Well, I mean,
you knew who you were coming to see. But yeah, it was a really hard call. And actually, just a couple weeks ago, I was there, getting stuff packed and not even really thinking about cleaning things out, just kind of thinking about, okay, I'll use this as a warehouse and, like you said, a commissary. And a local restaurant that has been around longer than me, the lady that is the cook and the mama and all of that, she called and she said, will you rent your spot to me? And that was the first time that it's ever occurred to me to rent it out. And when she came in, she looked around and she said, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. And I realized that I haven't thought that about it in a long time because it's been exhausting for me. And the idea of my dad's dream continuing someone else's dream made it like, okay, this is what I do. This is exactly what I do. And now, I'm cooking meat out of my trailer, which works just fine. I'm not feeding people in the same traditional way that I've fed people for the last 20 years, but I don't think that's bad.
It's not a bad thing. Everything changes with time, and it also allows you to have a little more freedom.
Right.
Because we all know that those 4 brick walls kind of trap you inside and hold you to a place.
Goodness gracious, that pandemic where it was just us on the inside, God rest her precious soul, my TT told me the same stories. We had about 10 that we cycled through every day, at least 5 or 6 times a day. And there was a point where I thought, if I have to hear this story again, I'm going to scream. And then I lost her, and all I want is to hear every one of those stories. And in fact, it's kind of funny because I tell them like they're my own. I'm like, yeah, one time that wasn't me. That was TT that grew up in Carfalona, not me. But aren't we a combination of the people that we've loved? That's who we are as people. So
well, people have the biggest influence on us as we hang around them, and she was an inspirational lady herself. She was almost like a local celebrity in her own sense in town.
Once she got on Facebook and people would come through and go, hey, TT, she would say, your TT is famous. And she kind of was, She and I did, I had one of my restaurant things was I called it my Hey Everybody. And I would pop up live on Facebook and show people what my daddy was eating and show people what we were cooking for lunch. And it was just like a little 5-minute, I'd wander, hey, Poppy, what you eating? He's, chewing chicken legs. And TT would tell you what she cooked, and Terrence would tell you what he cooked, and Tony would show you what was on the smoker. And, it was just incredible. I had this cast of characters. And after losing Daddy, I was like, okay, well, I can still do this. Me and TT, and after I lost her, I'm like, man, I don't have another character. And so I'm excited and ready for Jacob to get done with school so I can have me another character.
Well, that'll be good.
Yeah.
Well, talking about the restaurant, what's a few of the dishes that y'all are best known for?
Man, so we did barbecue, but we did vegetables. Our lima beans, I can't explain to you. If there was a lima bean contest, we would win. I mean, we had the best lima beans. Every day we had lima beans and greens, and you could just get food that your grandma would have cooked.
Well, yeah,
And
catfish Fridays were always good.
Fridays, chicken on Tuesdays.
Chicken.
Terrence's fried chicken, man. That kid's
He's still frying chicken?
I'm sure he is. He's not in a kitchen anymore, which makes my heart sad because he is such a good.
So he's no longer working in Jonesboro?
No, he's gone to work for FedEx. So I know.
What?
I know.
We would always pop in and see him there.
Yeah, when he was working
When
for
he was
Skip,
working-
I would stop in and see him over there and hang out and catch a beer.
Yeah. Oh, I miss him so much.
Still living in Jonesboro?
I think so. I think he's commuting back and forth to Memphis, and driving for FedEx.
Heath talks about him and his chicken often.
Oh my gosh,
Got
nothing in
fried
the
chicken.
world like
He could give Gus's a run for their money
I
and all the
agree.
rest of them.
Oh, for
I
sure.
mean, I firmly believe that.
for sure. My daddy, if he had to go anywhere, he would get Terrence. He'd go to the store and get like 5 packs of chicken legs and get Terrence to cook him like 40 chicken legs and put them in a Ziploc bag, and you could track him by the chicken bones out the window.
Chicken bones out the window. That's pretty
Chicken
funny.
bones, bologna rinds, and pimento cheese. That was Poppy.
Pimento cheese. Wow. Well, look, talking about you've been on several shows. I know you brought it up. You've been on Chop Grill Masters and BBQ Pit Masters. Which one of those 2 shows did you like the best?
Oh, man. So with Pitmasters, I was my daddy's backup. And, they gave us stuff that we had never seen before to cook. And he just was so silly that it was just.
He was just having a good time.
That was it. He didn't care if we won, and he was just, and of course, he was the sound bite that they used forever. Him, I ain't scared. They used that forever. But I loved being on Chopped. I did 3 episodes. I did 2 of the Grill Masters and 1 in the studio, and I loved doing those. But I'll tell you, my favorite was trying to beat Bobby Flay. That was so much fun. The round 1, they brought me this giant piece of swordfish, and I mean, I'm used to catfish. I know how to put a little scald on a catfish, but I've got this giant swordfish, and I, kind of doing my best, and it was not getting done. And I was like, "Hey, Bobby, what do I do with this? It's not getting done." He said, "Do what Southerners do." And I picked it up and dropped it in the deep fryer. But I got it on the plate. The other girl didn't get it on the plate. She didn't get hers on the plate. So I got to cook against Bobby, and I cooked chicken wings. That was the last thing we cooked at the Big Apple block party. We did 18,000 chicken wings in 2 days at the block party.
18,000 chicken wings in 2 days.
In 2 days. And so that was what I did against Bobby, my signature dish or whatever. I didn't beat him, but right before I walked in, my producer, Chris DeRosa, said, "We hired 75 people to be here to cheer for you. Not a single person in here is here to cheer for Bobby. Go make them proud." And it was easy to go out there, when everybody there is rooting for you. It was truly the most fun. It was fun. I also had fun doing BBQ Country. That one was fun too. That one was one that Royal Oak sponsored. Filmed right outside of Nashville, and paired kind of a mentor with somebody who was
A backyard person.
Backyard person, right. Did you do that one?
I did not do it. I actually vented not to do that show.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was fun. The concept on it was a little bit less intense and more
Laid back.
playful. Yeah, more playful. So, you know what though? If anybody asks me to do anything, I always say yes. So I can find a way for just about any experience to be fun.
Well, I have a question. Talking about being serious, though, you got invited to cook for the James Beard House, which many people do not get invited to the James Beard House.
I did.
So tell us a little bit about that experience.
The first thing that kicked in was imposter syndrome. I went to culinary school for 1 semester, and I did not feel like I was a chef, and I felt like I was cooking in the church of chefs, and I'm not one of them. And so I really had a lot of anxiety with that. I emailed my chef from culinary school and was like, "Hey, I'm I'm really struggling. And she said, well, you're being ridiculous. When you came to me, you were already a chef. You knew more about meat than anybody that I know. So just drop that. And so I called our friend Carl Ruiz. Carl was a Food Network personality and just a personality. And he had some Michelin stars, and I called and I was like, I'm not nervous about my food. That is not a problem. What I'm nervous about is making it look pretty, and I need your help. And so he brought in Mario, his sous chef, Gloria, his best friend, and Will Shear, and those people set me up for success. And it was one of the most incredible experiences ever. I had Craig at Pig Beach in Brooklyn cooking ribs. The fryer in the Beard House goes up to 500 and kicks off over and over again. And so I had Terrence trying to fry catfish, and we ended up moving and cooking on a stove, and then Craig came in and we're like, hey, hit that fryer and cook those hush puppies. And he didn't know that it did that, and he was like, y'all suckered me, and we kind of did. But it was Jacob was with me, and he was 14 at the time, and he was in the middle. I said, Jacob, I need you to do whatever. He said, yes, chef. And it was as impactful as the first time he called me mama, for him to recognize what we were doing. And I think only now that he's in school and knows who James Beard was, he really realizes, oh my gosh, we did something pretty big. So yeah, highlight of my career for sure.
Wow.
For sure.
Well, one of the other things, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, y'all were one of the very first sponsored Royal Oak teams, correct?
Yeah, I think so. So
was it y'all the number one, the first one?
We go back like 2005. They started supplying all of our charcoal and sponsoring us on the road. But I think even before then, my dad, had reached out to some folks here, and we have used Royal Oak before we were sponsored by them. And my granddad, Ubon, used Royal Oak products. And so that's all we've ever used in my whole entire career. We've never strayed any other way. In fact, we've used as part of our presentation that other charcoal companies use petroleum products to put their briquettes together, and so you have to pre-burn. And so we started talking about Royal Oak way before Royal Oak even realized we were talking about them. So that to me, that means that tells you how we feel about the product. So.
That's right. I kind of grew up on that red bag of lump
as
well.
So
my dad, deer camps and, fire department cookings and things like that, they use lump to cook chicken halves and things like that. And those big open top cookers. Nobody really used briquettes, so, it was just a thing of the old school way, I think.
Yeah, my granddad used old Diz, and I don't even know if they make that anymore, but I remember coming in here and seeing it.
Royal Oak actually, made old Diz, yeah.
When I came in and saw it, I thought, that takes me all the way back to the 60s.
Well, that was one of the original charcoals in the grocery store, the little, 4-pound, 6-pound bag, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think everybody come home with a bag of that and a pack of steaks at one time.
Yeah, exactly.
Y'all talking before my time.
Well, we know you were still a fault in your daddy's eye at that time. Well, Leslie, I've been wanting to sit down with you for a while, and I know we could hold court and a conversation for days up on end. And it's always good to sit down with you and reminisce some memories about Mr. Gary and I didn't even bring up your mom.
Right.
She's
like the hospitality that holds Ubons together. She's really who if you ever saw it look pretty, it was because she did it. And if you ever saw that we had a liquor bar, it was because she made sure of it,
Well, I'm friends with your mom on Facebook now, and I know she's moved down to the reservoir and she's pontooning it and happy hour.
Captain Nani.
Yeah, she's just chilling and living her best life. And I'm like, she's just living it up.
She really really thought she wouldn't have fun after she lost my daddy, and it's one of the greatest joys of my life that she's found another way to enjoy herself. So that's amazing.
That's always good.
You know, and you know, my team's been together for 100 years. Beeve and I started cooking together in '96.
And the
girls were 3 and 4 years old when we started cooking.
Wow.
And I won't say how old, but I will say it's been 3 decades that we've known each other. And you know, of course, Craig joined us in '98. He's our new guy, and you know, it took a while for Beeve to, you know, be okay. I guess he's gonna stay around. That was like 2015, something like that. So, but yeah, you know, I mean, we've been lucky to do this together and to expand and change and grow. And I tell you what, I'm so proud of you. I'll toot your horn for a minute. You saved my bacon. You let me borrow a smoker from Memphis, and I couldn't have beat you in ribs, but I could have won in hog, you know. And you still helped us do that, and I just think that speaks to who y'all are. That it's competition's important, but friends and family are more important, and y'all put that out there, and it means a lot to somebody like me.
Well, we always try to do what's expected of us in the barbecue world, and that's always give somebody a hand up or help somebody out, because
what would Poppy do?
Yeah. What would Gary? I mean, seriously, all the old school guys, what would they do?
What would they do?
They're gonna help you.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with trying to beat you 5 minutes of the turn-in window, right?
Exactly.
But if I feel like I didn't help you and beat you, it's just
it's not the
it's
same.
not the same.
It's not the same.
So I'd much rather help you.
Yeah. So I just truly appreciate your old school and your embrace of the future. I'm really proud of y'all.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, until next time, you know, always enjoy shooting the Que with you. And next time we're going to grab us a cocktail.
Okay.
All right. We'll see y'all next week with another episode of Shootin The Que.
If you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, please feel free to reach out to us on our social media channels. Leave us a review if you've enjoyed the show. And until next time, keep shooting the Que.